Welcome to What Do You Say, the podcast that peels back the layers of remarkable individuals to reveal their extraordinary sides and their incredible lives. I'm your host, Frank Termini, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this journey with you. The podcast name's What Do You Say, but that's not how it's said.
How do you say it?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
You got it. We say.
Hey.
Welcome back to What Do You Say? My name is Andrew Termini. With me, as always, is my brother and your host, Frank Termini. Remember to go out there, like, subscribe, leave us a review, and turn on those notifications so you can be updated every time we upload some new content.
You got it down, bro.
Man, I am just crushing it.
Got it down.
I'm a recent subscriber.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell.
Ding.
Bell.
Yeah.
You got to hit the bell.
Let's introduce before we. So today we got Tony Cardello. I don't even know how to introduce you. We got so much. There's so many layers to
layers.
Tony Cardello. You know, from where he's been to where he's at. It's just one of those real cool redemption stories, right? And so I don't even know. So here, currently he's in the automotive space. You run 3 stores, four now, and you're in the medical spa space. You have 3 locations, right? Liberty, Lee Summit, and then Leewood,
Overland Park. Yeah.
Overland Park. So I mean, you're all over the place right now, and you're in 2 really hot markets. I mean, god darn.
Yeah.
The automotive space and the that medical spa space. God darn.
Yeah, it's big.
I mean, to elevate in the automotive space is extremely difficult.
Well, yeah, but for whatever
Get
reason,
into that. Earmark that comment.
Yeah, that's extremely difficult.
it is. But
It's not. And
god darn, I mean, that space exploded in 2020. It just seemed like it just blew up.
Oh, well.
I mean, guys were making some money, but not like you were after COVID or during COVID.
During COVID was crazy.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane.
I mean, it just exploded.
I mean, here, I don't want to go out of order. I know Frank's got a particular
No, go
order
ahead.
how he likes to do things. No. I'm not.
Go ahead. What were you going to do?
It's earmarked.
Let's go. We can go there.
You started out, but see if we go into this, then we might be skipping past how he got there.
Yeah, we'll go there.
All right.
we can go up, down, all the way around.
We got to go back, of course.
Did you start out selling?
Selling, yeah.
And
drugs. There's a little truth in that.
Then yeah. Well, I mean, in the automotive space, did you start out selling?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to go from selling to the finance end and then to run stores, I mean, that's
there's a couple of stops in between there. It's a natural progression. There's depending on the groups that you're with and your talent and your abilities. Sometimes it's sales, finance, and then you get into some sales management, and then you get into like a new car management, used car management. There's different layers and complexities of different roles, right? And some people are more qualified. I wouldn't say qualified, but better fit.
Yeah.
For different roles, and they take different levels of detail orientation and, leadership. And there is a lot of layers to that onion.
Yeah.
Of, and then the further up you work in that industry, the more all of that is required, right? You can't, a guy that's extremely detail oriented, but not very good leader. He can probably be a good new car manager, an inventory manager, some level of that. But when you get into start managing people, you got to have a leadership quality.
Managing people is hard nowadays.
It's a whole different level. And we tell these guys all the time, especially, good salespeople, their natural desire to move up is they want to move into management. And you got some guys that are some of the best salesmen you've ever seen in your life. But, it's the classic, like Rocky Balboa. Rocky turned out to be a good coach in the end. But when, what'd he say at first? Coach, I ain't no coach. I'm a fighter.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, some guys some guys have that reality and they understand it's just a fact. They're a better player than they are a coach.
Yeah.
Some people are better coaches than they are players.
Yeah, like I remember when we were at the KU camp, when we were in high school, I'll never forget the head coach said, "This guy's a great coach. This guy's a great coach. This guy," you know what the common denominator was? He says, "We were all terrible players in college." I mean, I'll never forget when he said that.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, sometimes it's like that math teacher, right? That math teacher that gets to the product and he skips all the steps and the class is like, wait a second, how, you know what I mean? So, you know, sometimes people who struggled are the better coaches, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so, but anyway, so you went to Rockhurst.
For a couple years, yeah. Had the Simone scholarship. You know, that's a whole nother thing that I screwed off in my life. You know what I mean? I can't tell you about the countless opportunities that I've been blessed with throughout my life that I just, screwed off basically.
So you went for what, 2 years?
I went for 2.5 years. Yeah. I left my junior year.
And went where?
To the streets for a little while. I ran away from home.
Really?
Yeah, and I told my parents that I wouldn't come home. I called them every night to let them know that I was alive, but I wouldn't tell them where I was. And there's no iPhones, no tracking back then, right?
Right, just a pager.
Yeah, and I didn't have that either. So
Now let's unpack what you said before that you went there on a Simone scholarship. So we're talking about Rockhurst High School,
correct.
All boys Catholic high school, which is a pretty elite athletic school.
Yeah,
And the Simone scholarship was for
it's a little compilation of everything. It's a well-rounded student, a standing in the community, athletics, it was an all-encompassing scholarship. And in fact, I don't know still to this day, but I think back then, and I may be wrong quoting this, but it may have been like one of the most prestigious scholarships at the school.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, the Simone Award that they give to the high school football player is the most prestigious.
Yeah, it's the Heisman of the city, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, for Heisman of the metro area.
Yeah.
You know, so it's Missouri and Kansas, really. So yeah, for sure. And like, you know, a lot of these kids, like that kid that went to Michigan, Ronnie Bell.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think he got that offer to Michigan until he won the Simone Award.
Wow.
It's definitely a
You know.
springboard.
For sure. I think he's in the NFL now.
I don't
Is
know.
it Ronnie Bell or Lonnie Bell? God, it's going to bother me.
I don't know. I could look it up.
He went to Park Hill or Park Hill South, one of them two. He's a wide receiver. He was a stud. But no, it is a prestigious award. So, and then, so what sports did you play?
Wrestling and soccer.
Wrestling was your jam, though, right?
Always, yeah. Since 4 years old, I used to joke I came out of the womb in a headlock. You know, being the youngest of five.
Right.
Chris, my brother Chris, 7 years older than me, 6.5 years older than me. Then they all went up from there, and everybody wrestled. You know, my oldest brother Joe's 15 and a half years old, almost 16 years older than me, 15 years older than me. Yeah, and so everybody wrestled. We all wrestled. So I came out of the womb in a headlock, so I didn't have a choice.
And so you wrestle in high school for what? All 4 years?
No. My senior year, did I start? I don't even think I started because I went back to Raytown. So that's what I was going to tell you. So I ran away from home.
Right.
And
Let's
over
go
that
back
Christmas break. I said, I will come back if I can go back to Raytown. My parents said no. So okay, well, I'm staying gone. So they called the school.
So why did you not like Rockhurst?
You know, my friends. I didn't because I was more worried about my social life than I was my future at that point.
Sure.
My future was Friday. You know what I mean? I couldn't see past Friday.
Right.
Friday night, right?
Yeah.
So, like most kids at that age, right? It's hard to read into the future then. So I said, I'll come home if I can go back to Raytown. I said, you're not going back to Raytown. You're going back to Rockhurst. So I ain't coming home. So my parents had the wherewithal. They know me well enough. They called Raytown and said, hey, expect him. He's going to come up there and try and enroll. Don't let him. So I did. I went up there and I'll go enroll myself. I want to go back to school and finish, I want to finish high school. And I go to enroll and they wouldn't let me. So your parents called and said, you can't.
Really?
And I wasn't old enough at the time because I wasn't 18 yet.
Right.
I had to have them to enroll. And you know, it's so there's so much that's happened in life that I don't remember the intricate details. You know, obviously later, eventually went home. Eventually, got to go to Raytown. You know, I think I won that battle.
Did you wrestle at Raytown or just at
I
Rockers?
didn't. Yeah, I didn't end up wrestling at Raytown.
By that time, you were just
I was drugs, and you know that my life, that trajectory that ended up later in prison, started then.
So
Trajectory started
doing drugs as a sophomore or a junior?
Oh God, at 12 years old is when I smoked my first joint. It was over.
Really?
It was over a snow day. I'll never forget. We went. One of my friends, his dad was a postman. You know, postmen. They're going to deliver. It doesn't matter what the weather is, right?
Right.
So we all go over to his house, and we had girls over there. And I think I might have lost my virginity and smoked a joint on the day.
It's a good day.
Same day.
It's a good day. Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's funny. So Gianna's 13, right?
Yeah.
And I think to myself, I was 12 when I lost my virginity, and the girl was 12 too. And that
I just was talking to
physically
Dominique about this tonight on the way home.
It physically makes me ill. It physically fucking makes me ill. You know, and I tell my football players, I know there's some of them that have heard me said this, do not make decisions right now that will torture your soul later. Yeah. And that is one of the things in my life that tortures my soul.
Yeah.
It does. Like Gianna the other day, here, you've seen Gianna. She looks like she's 20. Mm-hmm. And then she gets in the pool. She's got a bikini on. And then she puts these goggles on that are bigger than her whole face. You know, so it's like she's got this 20-year-old body and, she's got a 10-year-old head and she's 13. And I'm like, oh, God, I just can't deal with this.
I know.
I just can't deal with this.
Yeah, me and Dominique were just talking about that tonight. We're so fortunate that, I know the conversations I'm having with Aniela, she'll be 15 next month. And the conversations that I'm having with her and her whole disposition on life is nothing like mine was at 15. Not even remote.
Thank God. Right.
Not even remote. And moreover, like what you just said, the girls that I was hanging out with had the same disposition I did.
Right. Well, and I start trying to analyze.
And I'm so grateful that my daughter doesn't, at least I don't think she does. She's hiding it very well so far.
Right. Yeah. You're scared to even say it. You're scared to even say it. So I start to analyze the girls, from the time I was 12 to, here I had my first child at 16. Right. So I was just, oh God. But I'm like, a 12-year-old girl, I'm thinking, did she maybe not have a good relationship with her dad? What was going on that made her think that was okay? You know what I'm saying? And, for me, I had my dick thought way more than the brain between my ears did at that time. It had no conscience.
Right. Testosterone is strong. It is a strong drug.
I think I don't remember which one of my uncles or maybe it was even Dad that he just said a hard dick has no conscience. I'm like, fuck, is that true?
Yeah.
I don't remember who said it, but. I remember it being repeated to me over and over again. And God, it's just like, oh, what I would give to take a lot of that back.
So go back to what you just said and you start analyzing where was their dad? What was going on in their life why the girls that I was running with and I could that. And so I try and reverse engineer that so that it doesn't happen to my daughter. I try and think about, what was it that maybe they were lacking or whatever. And, not always
sometimes you just catch a bad seed.
You just catch a bad seed, man. You never know why, but more times than not, playing the statistical odds and
you got to be close to your girls.
Got to be close, present, not just there, it's one thing to be married to your wife and in the house. That's not really enough.
You got to be present. You could be there and not present.
Mentally, spiritually, physically, all the
above. And the key, you can't raise kids without the Holy Spirit.
Right.
You just can't, because you're not going to be there all the time to convict them when they're going to do something stupid, right? So you want the Holy Spirit to have that tight leash on them. So when they stray, they're like that dog that keeps trying to run away and the neck keeps flying back. Yeah, that's what you really want for yourself and for your kids.
Yeah,
and you also want their heavenly Father to fill in the gaps that you leave, because you're going to leave gaps.
no question.
So if you connect them to the Holy Spirit and their heavenly Father, then when you leave the gaps, they'll fill them for you.
Neela asked me, I can't even remember the scenario. I just know that I was proud of her. She asked me about something that I said no to, and I wish I could remember the scenario. I said no. And I said, thank you for asking me, and later that night she goes, hey, Dad, if I would have done that and and told you about it afterwards and I didn't ask you permission, I just did it, would I have been in trouble? I said, no, you wouldn't have been in trouble. And here's why, because we haven't talked about that before. But where I'm proud of you is you had the wherewithal to think that maybe, even though we hadn't talked about it, that maybe they couldn't be. So I said, that tells me that you're developing a conscious and a good sense of right and wrong.
Right.
And I go, so no, you wouldn't have been in trouble, but that's not your ticket to go try things. If you have that thing tugging on you, ask me. And I'm only going to tell you no. I'm going to only tell you no just because I know better. We joke around the house. Dominique's nickname around the house is No Monique. Which I need that in my life because, we're talking back. What was I doing at 12 years old?
Right.
We had this discussion the other night. So let me ask you guys, what time is appropriate this summer for my daughter who will be 15? What's an appropriate summertime curfew? You're going to have to answer this here pretty soon.
Here, I got to tell you, I want them in the house. It all depends. Where are they?
Anyela.
No, but what I'm saying is, where are they going? Who are they going to be with?
They're just in Liberty. They're here. Whatever.
What are they doing though? She's going to go. What's she going to do? She's going to go to the movies? What?
Sure.
Okay, well, what time's the movie start? What time's it get over? 10 minutes from when the movie's over, you need to be home.
All right. So Dominique's putting a hard stop time on it. So
the hard stop time for me at
like
14, she's getting ready to be 15.
A lot of her friends are driving now.
Is she in high school yet? Is she a freshman?
She'll be a sophomore. She's going into sophomore.
Oh, God. See, my curfew in high school was midnight.
Which I feel is way too late.
It's late. It is.
I feel like 10:30. Here.
That's Dominique.
10:30.
I said 12:30. I'll send you guys this video of my mom. My mom happened to be at the house staying with us for a month making Italian cookies for Anna Marie's wedding. And I said, Mom, come here. We're having this discussion. I need you in here. I said, it was so funny because she said a real matter of fact, like she was a disciplinarian. I said, Mom, what time was my curfew? First thing she goes, I don't know if you had a curfew. And Dominique goes, that's what happened. That's what happened. And then I go, no. She goes, no, I know, no. Let me think about it. He had to be in the house no later than 1:00.
Yeah. Yeah, that's way too late.
She was stern,
Well, I mean, here, like during the week, though, like, of course, it's summertime right now, but like, say during the week, no, midnight's way too late. But on the weekends, I had to be in the house by midnight. And if I was late, that pager was going off. Yeah. Like, it could have been 12:01. They were starting to page me, see where the hell I was at.
I disregarded every page.
That's what I was going to say. There was one.
Yeah, but you didn't miss curfew a whole lot. Like, there was one time we had to go looking for you and Michael. I don't even know where you. I think Michael was at the casino. He was freaking 17 years old.
Give me a rule and I'm going to break it.
Right. That's what
rules are made to be broken.
I didn't. I remember one time my freshman year, I came home late and Michael was actually spending the night over the house that night. Yeah. And I open up the front door and my dad's behind it and I don't know it. As soon as I shut it, just pow, I got the shit beat out of me. But I mean, yeah, I would have to say, on the weekends, I would say you get, because here at the end of the day, like if you're too strong and you, then they're going to rebel.
That's
you got to give them a little bit of leeway, right?
My blood running through her veins.
And here's the other thing. Right now, you got them on Life 360. You know where they're at all the time, so that helps too.
That was the stipulation. No matter what your curfew is, it doesn't matter if I ever check the phone to see where you're at and your location serves, you're done.
I will bury you.
Done. I'll come.
And if I call you and you don't answer, I'm going to bury you.
If Life 360 can't find you and I have to find you, it's going to be bad.
Right. You better hope that you're maybe in jail and they tell them to keep you in there.
Because here, at the end of the day, when we were growing up, when somebody's dad showed up, it wasn't a big deal because he was probably fat and out of shape. You show up, guy's going to be like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's part of my gym motivation.
Yeah.
Staying growing the big beard and staying fit and cut. I'm just trying to keep that intimidation factor.
You just want them to be a little scared of you. Little do they know that you're like a car that's got brand new tires and it smells good. It's been detailed, but you pop that hood, buddy. You pop that hood, the transmission's fucked. There's no oil in it. The brakes are gone. I mean,
it was one of those cars that was in New Orleans when it flooded.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You better not run for me.
I mean, yeah, because I can't catch you. I'm gonna have to fucking shoot you. Don't run. I will fucking shoot you. I mean, you want them to be a little bit afraid of you, right? I mean, but then the other thing was like you also want to be, you want to have some like
be approachable.
Well, but you want to have some guys on the inside that you know what I mean, that'll tell you everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Made a couple.
I am not ready.
Yeah, I made a few of them.
Gotta have the guys on the inside.
And it also makes me nervous putting them in the car with new drivers too, right? Like for me, like with Ross, Joseph, and Nina, my deal was like, here, always take your own wheels.
Yeah.
Always take your own car.
Yeah.
No matter what. You leave when you want to leave. You go when you want to go. If you want to leave and no one else does,
yeah, and
I'm gone.
You don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go.
Plus, like for me, I always wanted to pull the Houdini move. I didn't say bye to no one, just gone.
Yeah,
gone.
Away.
Yeah,
Little T.
All of a sudden, Frank T's just gone. Where the hell did he go? Nobody knows.
I still run that.
Yeah, I was gonna say you still do.
I do still run that.
I'll tell my wife, get your coat. Don't say bye to nobody.
Yeah,
I'll pull the Eric Roberts and fucking Pope of Greenwich Village.
I'm gone.
You get your coat and you don't say bye to nobody. Fuck.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Oh man. So, all right. So, you start doing dope, smoking weed at 12.
12.
And then, so how old are you? So the habit obviously progresses. Mm-hmm. And then what's the first level of progression and how old are you?
I'd have to think back. The first thing I tried of any hard substance was acid, and I think we got sold some bunk stuff. I think we got sold some. I'll never forget to this day because when he opened it up out of the foil wrapper, it was like a torn piece of a Yellow Pages, saturated. I've never seen acid in my life. I don't know what it is. I don't even know.
I've always heard it's like a wet piece of paper.
Yeah. So I see this saturated.
It's
piece.
not wet.
It's not?
Yeah,
No, there's a dropper they put on these droppers and these pieces of paper that dissolve on your tongue.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, until I actually saw real acid and really hadn't experienced it. That's how I know that I think it was bad stuff because it tasted like lighter fluid. So I think my first drop of acid was actually lighter fluid.
I couldn't imagine that drug. I mean, I know like acid is from a hallucinogenic standpoint is like 10 times harder than shrooms. Yeah. And I couldn't even handle shrooms. I was like, lock myself in the closet. Please make this go away, God. I'll never do it again. I just hated it.
I will say this about LSD and all psychedelics, that in a controlled setting, they can be therapeutic. I'm not saying in a party setting, but I'm saying in a controlled setting, I think LSD does have a clinical use.
Well, here, that's perfectly clear. Back in the 70s,
That's what it was for.
there was all kinds of research. They used it for...
MK Ultra was the first, was when the Army was testing acid and the effects of acid. And they were testing it on
prisoners.
soldiers.
They're just on soldiers first.
Just on soldiers.
Okay.
MK Ultra, and then they stamped it illegal because of the, the guy was, how he treated his commanding officer was very nonchalant and kind of disrespectful, and they just stamped it illegal.
Yeah. Well, there was all kinds of research done in the 70s on psilocybin, MDMA, and LSD. And actually, the research was incredibly promising for end-of-life care, manic depression.
See that,
there were some other diagnoses, anxiety, shit like that it was incredibly promising, but the FDA demonized it. And, so it was all shut down. But there's a documentary on Netflix. What's it called?
I know. Well, there's the Fantastic Fun guy, which is a psilocybin.
There's 4 different episodes. There's LSD, MDMA, psilocybin, and I think they might have even done, what's that real hard one that lasts only like 10 minutes?
Talking about DMT.
DMT. There you are.
Tryptamine.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Right.
It could last 10 to 15 minutes, or you could take the ayahuasca, which releases DMT, which lasts like 24 hours.
That's just entirely too long.
What is that?
It is.
That's ridiculous.
It's so you drink it. It comes from a
Cactus? Is this like...
no, that's peyote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this comes from from a root, tree bark, and they mix it into a tea, and you drink it. And they actually now have ayahuasca ceremonies for people who deal with PTSD, and they're technically not legal, but they are
off-label
at treatment facilities inside of the United States where people are actually testing it.
It's called Change Your Mind. It's on Netflix, and there's 4 episodes, and it's LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, and mescaline.
Yeah,
mescaline. Oh yeah. I was locked up with Leonard Picard, who was the acid king. He was the guy that they arrested over in Manhattan that had all the LSD and those missile silos, or those old missile silos.
Yes, I've heard of this guy.
And they ended up, I can't remember what the charges, but I think one charge was some sort of like attempted murder on a federal agent, because this agent went in there and was so exposed to such high potency levels of LSD that the guy was tripping for like months.
Shit,
or something. I may be embellishing the story, but it was something to the effect that he told them when they arrested him, don't go in there. Let me take this lab down. You don't know what you're doing.
You have to be. You cannot be a control freak and take hallucinogenics, and I think that is my issue. Like any drug that I ever did, there's always a way out. Like if it's too strong, I always knew my way out. Mm-hmm. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Whether it was marijuana, whether it was cocaine, whether it was ecstasy, those were the ones I did the most. I did do shrooms once, but then when I realized that I wanted it to stop, and I couldn't make it, I fucking freaked out. Yeah. I was like, okay, so it's been about 4 hours. I'm done. And then like 4 hours later, and I'm like still frying, and I'm locked in a closet with a case of beer. I'm like, this is so bad. I want this to go away. Seeing shit initially was cool, but man, after 4 hours, I'm like, I need it to stop. So that was,
I got shit I got to do tomorrow.
that was my thing. That's when I didn't even think about that, before. But now looking back, like anything I did, there was always a way out. If you do too much blow, take about 47 shots, it'll stop. Right? If you take too much X, drink. It's like if you start. I remember you could start sipping on a beer, and in 10 minutes you would start to come down if if the X was too strong. Weed, go get some cookies, right? Go get some cookies, put some cartoons on, it'll go away, right? But God darn, I did not like, so the fact that you tried that at such a young age is just baffling to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So then you go to LSD, and then what?
Probably, I think as funny as this sounds, I think cocaine was the one of the last things that I tried, because it was, to me, I associated it with crack. Never to this day, surprisingly enough, not snorted, shot, nothing, heroin. It was one of the only things that I was, and I still am, and I always will, terrified.
Here, it's really funny because I remember one night I just couldn't get myself to go to sleep. And you know the deal. You've been there. And even in that situation right there, when someone offered me heroin, I knew, no shot do I want to try that.
Yeah, I was
no way in hell do I. And then I'm thinking to myself, why am I around people who have fucking heroin? What the fuck? What the fuck am I?
I'm in the wrong room.
Why do you have that? Right? You know what I mean? I mean, it was so unnerving to me. It's like, you're doing heroin. Why? What is going on here? This is, at that point, I'm like, okay, this is out of line. Now I need to go. I need to go find new friends. God.
But you were only there because there were females there.
I'll tell you right now. I remember this vividly. So at the time, I was working at Aqua, and we would leave Aqua when we got done working, and we would go to this bar down at the River Market. It was called Oldham at the time.
I remember.
Okay, and that joint wouldn't open up till 3 a.m.
I was locked up at that time.
No.
Yeah, I was. I was locked up during Aqua.
Were you? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you'd go down there and they'd charge you $30-$40 to get in. They would have, here, this is the type of joint this was, right? It was a rave. I mean, really is what it was. They had Red Bull.
Where's this at? Like 3rd and Gannat?
No. It was right down the street from Vivace. On the same side of the street. When you drove down the street, it was on the right-hand side.
It's like 4th Street. Right outside the River Market.
Turned into a club later.
It was right across the street from Cascones.
Cabal. It turned into Cabal.
Did it?
Cabal.
Okay.
The Cabal was what it was first, and then at night it turned into this. What'd you call it?
It was Oldham, is what the name of it.
Yeah. C-Mac Zahabi.
Yes.
Is that his joint?
Yeah, I remember C-Mac.
Yeah.
So you'd go down there and they'd charge you this cover, and there was water, Red Bull, juice. It was a fucking X and Coke bar. It's what it was, right? That's all it was.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and we get rocked, just completely destroyed, right? Walk out of there about 10 in the morning, the sun's up, and you're just like, at that point, it's borderline suicide, right? So we end up
birds chirping.
We end up going to an after party at some fucking hotel with. And there's all these people there that I don't really even know except the person that I was with. I don't want to name him because I don't want to
protect the innocent.
I don't want. Yeah, right. So there's a plate that's got, like, I don't know how much Coke on it, and people are just passing it around. And there's nothing but swingers, and there's married women whose husbands are there, and they want you to watch. They want to watch you with their wives and all this weird shit, which I was non-functioning, if you can imagine, right? So that didn't matter to me at all. And I'm looking around at my buddy and I go, what the fuck are we doing here? Really, what are we? It's 11 o'clock in the morning. Everyone has this weird shade of gray. What are we doing here? And he goes, I don't know. And we left. We were there for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't have anything in common with these people. Nothing. Right. Nothing at all, And for me to, here, and at that point in my life, for me to be morally compromised, that's hard.
That's really bad.
That was really difficult, right? So I was like, okay, I'm done. Get me out of here.
So at what point did you decide to monetize your drug use?
In high school.
In high school?
In high school, yeah. Because Rockhurst, right? A lot of money out there. A
lot of money, a lot of guys. Yeah. They all like to party.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And I never forget it, man. I used to go around the lunchroom during lunch period with a fanny pack full of dime bags.
You're kidding.
No, just slanging weed in the lunchroom, yeah. And it was, there were more people doing it and buying it than there weren't. I'll tell you that. And
Here's the funny thing.
50% of the school.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe
Oh, more than that, probably.
That I was dealing with. Maybe I don't know. A select few. I didn't. There wasn't. I wasn't like a big time dope dealer.
Right.
But I started getting it though. I could see. I saw the money. Like, okay, this is good. I'm now I'm smoking weed for free.
Yeah, you're a capitalist.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time here. So this is so terrible. I don't know that anybody ever knows this story. So I'm selling weed, and then I'm the janitor. What do you call it? Or I do work study.
Yeah.
So I clean in the morning, right? Well, I've got access to the concession stand in the gym. So I get candy out of the concession stand and I keep it in my locker, and I'm selling weed to the guys. And during activity period, they're eating the weed, or they're smoking the weed, and they get the munchies, and I'm selling them candy in the afternoon.
Dime bags in a candy bar.
So terrible.
You're set.
So when did you transition to Coke? Was it Coke that you sold that you got in trouble for, or was it
Everything.
Yeah. So what? Give us the story of how you got into incarcerated. How did that?
Man, just it eventually got to the point where it spilled over into the nightlife. I got old enough to where I started running down in Westport, and my brother Chris, who it's so funny when I'm anywhere and they ask for my social security number, I have to stop and process for a minute, make sure I give them mine and not Chris's, because I ingrained his information into my head so much when I was younger.
Yeah.
you used his ID?
Yeah, because 7 years older than me, right? So he moves to Vegas when I'm, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. So for the next, 4 years until I'm 21, I'm him in the city, right? And it wasn't till he moved back that I got busted with my fake ID at the club, and the guy was cool enough to give it back to me. He said, "Your brother's already in here. Go. You can't come in." So, but I had developed a I wouldn't say reputation. I developed some friendships. I was part of a nightlife crew, right? Going out, hanging out, going after hours, doing all the things, right? And cocaine and ecstasy was more the thing than anything. And it just, I think in high school, I started doing meth when I was 17, and I still don't think I had touched coke or any of that. And like I said, I associated the cocaine with crack, and I associated cocaine and crack with shooting up.
Yeah.
Which that's not something else also I never did. Any of the drugs I ever tried, I've never injected anything.
I never either. I never.
So here I am, all holier than thou.
Yeah. At least I never shot
At least
up.
I never shot up.
Yeah.
I smoked copious amounts of methamphetamines out of
Right.
a light bulb.
Yeah.
But I never shot up.
Yeah. That makes me good.
Yeah, I wasn't that bad. So anyway.
You can always find somebody that's worse than you.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
The
glass is half full. If your glass ain't half full,
Right.
something smaller and shut up. Yeah, I just in being in the nightlife and getting plugged in, and obviously one thing led to another. You get to running with people that are involved, and more people that are involved with more stuff, and get bigger, and it eventually got put under federal investigation, running with the crew that was doing big things. So,
well, you were running with some major players.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
I think at one point, the guys, again, not naming any names, but some of the guys that we were all running with at the time that also all, did their time and got in trouble as well. But, I would say in the clubs, probably 80 to 90% of the ecstasy running through the clubs in Kansas City were all coming through the crew that I was hanging out with. I wouldn't say directly through me. I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't. But all the circle of the people that I was involved, partying with and hanging out with on a regular basis, I was friends with, and so you're just, guilt by association, right? And then you're whether it's guilt by association, you can't help but get a little bit involved in being back to being a hustler and a capitalist, and like, hang on a minute, let me catch some of these breadcrumbs here.
Yeah.
So let me get in on that.
so how'd you get busted then?
being with those guys that were under investigation and being on phone taps.
So did your house get raided? What went down?
No, I didn't get raided because I wasn't ever a big enough player like that. But I did get.
So what'd they do? Call you down, try to get you to snitch?
No. They just came. They picked me up in the middle of the day. It was it was morning time for me, but it was 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
Banging on the door, and I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and I remember, man, I'll never forget that day. I walked down the stairs, and just the way the stairs were positioned to the front door, I could see out the back door first, the back sliding glass door, before I turned the corner. And I pause, and I see all these federal agents in full tactical gear, and they just point to the front door like this.
You're like,
and I went,
shit.
Oh my God, this is not good.
Right.
So I went to the front door, and I mean, there had to have been 50 cops, all over, DEA, FBI, all over the place. They were all around, all tactical gear, different deals, and they picked me up, asked if I was Anthony Cardello. So turn around, you're under arrest, and that was it.
And then, did you ever get out, or
never got out? Stayed in the entire time. They denied my bail. I had a whole litany of things going on.
So what were the charges?
Conspiracy to distribute. Yeah.
So conspiracy to distribute, and you did
some amounts of weed, cocaine, and ecstasy. That's how it read.
Say it again.
Some amounts of weed, cocaine, and ecstasy.
All right. And so how much time did you do? 46
months.
So you almost did 4 years. How much time did you get sentenced to?
That 46 is what I got.
You did the whole thing?
Well, you did, for me, because it's such limited time, you do 85% mandatory. So then you get to go to the halfway house. So I did 42 months in, and then I did another 3 or 4 months in the halfway house.
So, and I'm assuming it's a state penitentiary.
It's federal.
Oh, it's federal.
Yeah, I was in Leavenworth.
Well, you got lucky there then.
I did. You'd
rather it be federal.
Well, that story, whatever. There's pros and cons to both. You'd rather not go to prison.
Yeah, right.
So
of course,
they're really, when you're in that situation, there's none worse than the other. I don't think so for me, they designated me to Leavenworth. That was by the recommendation of the courts, right? The judge recommended that they have no control. The judges are really limited on what they can do, to avoid corruption, right? They got the sentencing guidelines where your criminal history matches up with your offense level, and then you got to be sentenced within these guidelines. Mine was.
So you had no criminal history, first time offense.
No, I had criminal history.
Oh, you did.
In fact, I was out on bond fighting a gun charge. For some stuff I got into, and that's what denied my bond.
Was the gun charge?
The gun charge, because it was a whole deal with the girl that I was with at the time, and I kicked in the door to her apartment. She was in there with another guy that had threatened me on the phone like 6-7 months earlier. And this is just one of the deals where I told him, me and you we'll see each other one day,
right?
And this was that day, right? So I was like, oh, you're that guy, right? And so I pulled my pistol out. And I'm on
assault.
I'm on 911. I don't know this. She's got her phone on dialing 911, and while you can hear me in the background just telling this guy I'm going to kill him. I should blow the back of his brains out.
Oh, Jesus!
So they play that at my bond hearing and say that I'm a threat to society, that I shouldn't be released. So they denied my bond. Which was so terrible. It was not, I was drunk. I was a kid.
Yeah.
Listen, I shot a squirrel one time with a BB gun and felt terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My bark is way, way harder. My bite in those situations, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not a violent person by nature like that.
At this point in my life, I would never say that I was a violent person. Matter of fact, anytime there was an altercation, my first instinct was, okay, let's see if
hide behind Andrew.
Yeah, right. Let's see if we can get out of this without having any fight. And I will honestly say, every time it actually went to blows, that fucking guy deserved it. Like he was given every opportunity to let's just walk away. Let's just be done. every opportunity. And sometimes guys just want to beat. And I mean,
The St. Patrick's Day massacre at John's Big Deck.
that guy deserved it.
He got tuned up.
So here, that guy deserved it. I once again am being diplomatic. I'm being very nice. I said, listen, he's hitting on all these girls. I said, these girls are all married. Their husbands are right here. We don't want any problems. This motherfucker grabs me by my face. He palms my face and brings my face forward and then throws it back. Tone, I fucking saw red. I mean, I made this whole entire place erupt.
Yeah.
I made it erupt. I tried to kill him. I did. I beat this guy until, well, here, the whole fight. And so we were in so you walk in John's top deck, you go up the stairs, and then there's 2 levels. So we were in that middle level, and the fight goes all the way down the stairs into Josie Ann's, and the cook started to try to break it up. He laid knocked the cook from his feet to his shoulder blades. Johnny Pie Johnny Pie hit a cook so hard that it made the pictures in my wallet cry. Yeah, I mean, it was nightmarish.
Anybody that got in the way that we didn't know was
got hit. Everybody, I mean, it didn't matter. Everybody that got in the way got hit. This one guy, he walked outside after that, hit the first guy he didn't know. Just drilled the guy. And then everything's starting to calm down, and me and Sal Mormino, we can't even breathe. Okay, we're 3 sheets to it's St. Patrick's Day, right? We're hammered, and we're 3 sheets to the wind. And this guy, he's big too. He's like your size, and he's putting his glasses back on, and he goes, "I want whoever hit me when I wasn't looking to hit me again." And Sal Mormino hears it as he's walking by him and right uppercuts him. I mean, he didn't even stop walking. He didn't even get in a stance. Just as he's walking by him, goes. Fucking lifted him off of his feet, because you know him. I mean, that guy's got huge. I mean, from his forearms down, he's a monster, right? It's like shaking hands with a bear, and you knocked the guy completely out. I mean, it was a bad day.
That was Victor Monaco's place too. I think Victor Monaco comes out at the time because you're killing our cook.
Hold on, a couple weeks later. Remember, it was Life. There was that Life. Okay, so it was Tom Agrusa's place, and we said, here, we're going to walk across the street to what was the name of the bar that we were at? John's Top Deck. I said, and Joe Blaine goes, you probably don't want to go in there. That guy ain't letting you back in there. I said, oh, he knows I didn't start that fight. I didn't even get across the street. If Victor Monaco was standing outside, he goes, nope, get the hell out of here. He said, get out of here. He started.
And Victor, was tight with Dad and
well, yeah. I mean, here, I still love, to this day, I love Victor Monaco.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, I wasn't upset with them. Yeah, Tommy and Jimmy. I mean, they're, but, in his mind, and here, in his mind, he's thinking, hey, I've known this kid my whole life. He should know better than to fight in my place. And I should have, but this is the comment I told Victor. I said, Vic, I want you to understand something. I could have been in church. If somebody did that to me, I'm fucking fighting. I don't care if I'm in church. I don't care where I'm at. I don't want you to be offended that I was in your place. It could have been in my house. Didn't matter. It could have been my dad's place, my mom's place. It wouldn't have mattered. That's not what I was thinking. Right. He grabbed my face, my neck. Tone, I'll never forget. My head went forward because he had a big ass hand, and my head went forward, and then he threw it back. I couldn't. I don't even remember what happened really. I went red. I was hitting everyone.
Man.
Hey, I knocked a girl out. I remember. I had a hoodie on, and I keep getting tugged by the hoodie, and every single time I get tugged, I'm getting chin checked. I don't even look. I just turn around and swing, and I knocked this fucking girl out. Oh, no. I knocked her. She was up against the wall. And I'm like, here, you know what? Shame on you.
Yeah, I can't get in a fight.
You should know better than that.
Can't get in the middle.
And I tell my girls, if there's Gianna, if boys start fighting, get away. Mm-hmm. Because that's the shit that happens.
Oh yeah.
So what was the culture like? The characters that you were around in prison, and how did that shape who you are today? Because obviously
it didn't really slow you down.
It did initially.
For a couple days.
And, I will tell you this. I'm a hard learner, always have been, and I've gotten a lot better at that as I've gotten older. The stove's hot, don't touch it. I'm a little bit tougher and stronger than you. I could take a little bit more heat than you can.
Yeah.
Let me see what hot means, right? Ow.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I ain't gonna touch the stove again, So I never sold drugs again. I never did. Still to this day. Never did. Even, maybe me and friends go in on something, I'll get it, even after when I got out, I'll get it, I'll pick it up for us, whatever. But I never sold it like as an enterprise type of deal, what I did before.
You weren't trying to capitalize on it. It was all recreational at this time.
Yeah. And so, but I did. I stopped for a while when I got out. I flew straight. I was really.
And what'd you do when you first got out? What was your employment?
Car sales. I got back into car sales.
Okay. Did you do that prior to? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I did that. So when I dropped out of high school, that was the first job I had. In fact, I went and got I interviewed at Van. It's Courtesy Chevrolet. Chevrolet now. Interviewed there. I wasn't 18 yet. Told me I'm hired. I can come back and start selling when I'm 18, which is in November. And so November of '97 is when I started selling cars. So that's what I've always done. That's the only real professional job I've ever had is the automobile business, even since back then. So I've slid out a few times to some varying different industries, but similar.
Yeah.
I had heavy equipment, machinery, financing. Bigger cars really is all that is. But so. Yeah, so I got out. I was in at Barron Volkswagen. That's where I met little Chucky.
Yeah,
little Chucky turned me on to MySpace, by the way, and so
I remember one of them nights.
Yeah,
yeah.
Had to go soak after that.
So do you feel like the auto industry kind of fed into with the money and the fast-paced life? Because obviously there's some, I don't know how to word this because I don't feel like the auto industry is what it was then.
So it's not. So I know we were kind of going the stigma.
Yeah.
So it was so
like Wolf of Wall Street for
yes. So hey, let me see your resume. Let's see, you're a drug addict, you're a felon, and you got
perfect.
You're hired.
Yeah.
Probably going to lead the sales board.
yeah. Okay.
Because what a drug addict and a hustler, a guy that's got a criminal edge to him, is a hustler, right, by nature. And obviously a drug addict is a guy who can go party all night and then come to work the next day and still get it done, right?
Right.
Maybe have to use the drugs to do that, but it doesn't matter. You ain't above it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that, that is so I think that, and that's honestly, that's why the industry got such a bad rap for high divorce rate. And being in the car industry is not what causes divorce rates. You can't so people that think if being in the car industry, working the long hours, that causes a high divorce rate. No, what causes a high divorce rate is when you're in the car industry working long hours and then you go to the bar for 5 hours and then you come home at 1 and your wife's in bed and then you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and you do it again and you work 5, maybe 6 days a week and you do that 5 or 6 days a week. That's what causes a divorce. I don't care what industry you're in. If that's what you do, you're going to get a divorce.
There's plenty of industries and plenty of people maybe that are self-employed. I did it, where you're gone 13, 14 hours out of the day.
Yeah. You can't go to the bar after that.
No, you got to go home and you have to be present.
Yes. So,
and you have to be intentional and you have to be more intentional.
More intentional. That's right.
You have to be more intentional.
Yeah. The time needs to become even more quality than quantity. Yeah. So, I don't know where we spun off on that, but
we were talking about the culture and how it's shifted.
Yeah. So, I think that, I think, I have a little bit of discernment and an understanding of the spiritual world. And I know that I was being groomed by God years ago to grow through this business and be brought so that I can give back and be somebody nowadays to young me's coming up through the business, because I still think, I'm blessed. I'm super blessed and fortunate to work for an organization that it doesn't run rampant, where there's, like the smoking and the Red Bull and the drugs and the partying and all that stuff. It's not a real popular thing with our auto group.
Yeah, of course not.
There are auto groups in town, and I'm not going to name any of them that are, but there are some that still have that,
Right. Sure.
That old school, edgy, the smoking and Red Bull and cocaine and, still doing that, stuff. It's still very much part of the car business. Our dealer group, our group that we're in, we just don't. We're fitness guys. A lot of the McCarthys own a gym.
Yeah.
and so we're just all fitness minded family. We're real. It's the culture. We've cultivated a really awesome culture.
There's values,
Lots of values.
Integrated into what you do.
And at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. And how you look matters, especially when you're in sales, right? I mean, now, am I necessarily talking about fitness? Yeah, that definitely helps. It says a lot about you. But I'm talking about, clothes ironed, manicured, groomed,
100%.
all that stuff matters.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in sales.
Yeah,
it just does.
Yeah.
For the same reason why pharmaceutical sales reps typically are
very good looking women.
Yeah.
Right. Very good looking women. Or very good looking men.
Yeah, that too.
But I mean, a woman here at the end of the day, most doctors aren't males anymore. So, right. So you would want to have a male to go in there and talk to the female physicians, right?
Sure.
But anyway, so that's
What do you think drove that culture to get to that point? Do you think it was the long hours? Do you think it was the hunger for money? Because when you're in sales, it's financially driven, and or do you think that they just didn't screen candidates well? Because it was an old style way of thinking, and I got to say from my perspective, back then, I feel like a car purchase was one of the most stressful purchases that you could go through. Now, I don't feel that way.
But you also know people in the industry that are going to shoot you straight.
It's right. It still is. It still can be a very stressful deal. I think the main thing is like-minded. Like-minded people the similar type of personalities are going to gravitate to each other, right?
Right.
So you're priest, right? Or people that go to seminary school.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to find too many car salesmen at a seminary school.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I would venture to say.
Well, and that's why I remember in my 20s thinking to myself, man, the whole world's on drugs. No. I mean, yeah. I did. I remember thinking that because that just presented itself to me over and over and over and over and over again. And then when you finally are fortunate enough to remove yourself from that situation, now you're all of a sudden you would have no clue where to get it.
And you come to the place where it's like, you do coke too?
Oh, dude, I'm telling you. Yeah.
I mean, no, I wouldn't have. Okay, we could be friends.
Right. I mean, I just remember. And I really think a lot of that's the devil sucking you in more and more and more.
Sure.
Right? Because it's like, wait a second. You're my dad's age. You know what I mean? You do this?
Right.
Really? And then next thing you know, it just all of a sudden in your mind, it's just normal.
Listen, there are
and you get
there are
desensitized.
a lot of people that do drugs. A lot of people. A lot of.
They can't. A person who does drugs can't slide one past me, though. I'll tell you that right now. If you're doing dope, I can tell.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There ain't a snowball's chance in hell if you're doing drugs you could slide past me.
No,
you could slide past me because I just don't pay attention to anybody.
Well,
I really don't.
It depends on how far gone you've gotten. I feel like the further down the rabbit hole you've gone, the more you could see new rabbits coming in.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely. It's like it's black and white for me.
Absolutely, you could tell, and
you can tell too.
Oh.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't
big
ever
time.
tell. No, I would never know.
Now, prison wasn't your rock bottom, and it wasn't where you found Jesus.
No.
That's a good comment because we need to get to that. That's a big part of the story. So you start to use methamphetamine and you get hooked on it.
Yeah. Well, twice. So
Now, where were you at when you first got its teeth into you? Was this post prison?
So 17 years old.
Okay, 17 years old. It kind of first sunk its teeth.
Yeah,
into
it
you.
got really bad. To the tune of I was your typical meth addict where I was holed up in the basement. At one point, I remember one night I was in a bathroom, picking my face, what I thought was a pimple or a boil or something, and I just I could feel like I could almost get it. I knew I almost got it.
Right.
And then eventually it led into I had a safety pin, and I started I was almost digging. I could see the white head almost coming out. Well, now that I'm of a conscious mind and look back on it, the white heads that I kept seeing was fat.
Oh, wow.
I was literally digging out little chunks of fat that I thought were white heads.
And is that why people who are on who have an addiction to meth?
You can see the pick marks.
Yeah.
They're picking. They think they're almost. It's so when you tweak out on stuff, that's it. It doesn't matter whatever captivates you for that moment. You're all in, and it's almost like somebody's
Hyper focused on it.
Yeah, somebody's got to pull you out of it. If you're geeking out on something, tweaking out, somebody's got to smack you up the head and change your attention.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be on it for. I mean, I remember I blew off my cousin's wedding, and I was supposed to be in this wedding. I didn't answer my phone. I didn't show up. I disappeared because I was in the basement trying to get the zit. Well, now when I don't remember what finally pulled me out of this to stop picking at it. But at that time, I had this gigantic hole in my face. I'm like, I can't go to a wedding like this.
Right.
It looked like I got shot.
Right. It's like the guy who's wearing long sleeves when it's 110 degrees out because he's got track marks.
Oh, yeah.
Prime example, a friend of ours came to, hold on. A friend of ours came to my office and he said, I need to borrow some money. I said, here, just come by the office, right? So he comes by and he's got sweatpants on and long sleeves. It's July.
Right.
And I don't think, why the fuck's he wearing sweatpants and, I don't even think anything of it.
110 degrees out.
Come to find out, he was on heroin, right?
Yeah.
So I had no idea. So I need to start paying more attention to shit like that. Not for no other reason than, my own kids, God forbid.
Yeah.
Right? So
17 years old is when it first sinks its teeth into you.
Yeah. So I get really far out there, and I remember, and I think this is when I ran away at the time. That's when it got really bad. And then I remember I came by the house. I was staying with these people, and they had a Rottweiler that I'd kind of fell in love with. And I took this dog with me everywhere. I had a little Mazda pickup truck, dog in the back. I drive everywhere. So here I am thinking I'm wheeling dope, got pistols. I got a Rottweiler.
You're
I'm
you're fucking
I'm
Al Pacino. You're the Scarface. You got a tiger.
right.
yeah.
Tony Montana.
So I remember going and bringing the dog by my house, to my mom's house, to go show my mom the dog, and I think it may have been summertime by that point. Anyway, she's outside, and I walked up to her and I said, "What do you think? You're big dog," and she locks eyes with me, and she's just like she's seen a ghost. She just lost it.
She knew right then and there.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why?
You think you're hiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think you're
I
hiding.
look like a skeleton. I'm sunk in. I'm probably at this point 120 pounds, maybe at best, 105, 115 pounds, maybe.
Man.
I was shredded.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes, what do you need? What do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah. And you're like, I'm good.
I told her, I said, I'll tell you what, I wanted to race motocross really bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to ride dirt bikes bad. And I said, I will get a job and I will make the payment if you will get a loan for me for a new dirt bike so I can race motocross.
She said, hell, that's a way better path.
When do you want to go get it?
Yeah.
So she does. She gets the loan for me. I literally, when we went and bought this dirt bike, I quit everything overnight. I didn't, and this is typical fashion of me, right? I didn't just, I didn't quit drugs. I didn't drink pop. I started eating clean. I started running, getting in shape. And racing, I went full bore into racing motocross. I had already started racing a little bit with a buddy of mine. He had two bikes. Mm-hmm. Him and his brother had matching bikes, and his brother kind of quit racing motocross, started racing more BMX. So he basically had an extra bike that I could ride. Well, you get to that point where you start to enjoy it, where I want my own bike, and so I had already been exposed to it a little bit. Well, when I got my own bike, I got really serious about racing motocross. And I did, man. I quit drinking pop and everything. I started my life. I got straight as an arrow for a long time. And then I started getting good. I sold that bike and I ended up buying another one, and a little nicer bike and a little more tricked out. And I started getting deeper into it. And we were down in East Kansas City, down 12th and Oakley's, where my buddy, his mom lived. So we had the bikes all packed up on the trailer, ready to go. We were going to the races the next morning. And I come out and my bike was stolen off the trailer.
Oh, shit.
And his mom didn't have, her homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover it because it was technically considered a motorized vehicle, supposed to carry its own insurance. So I'm beat. I'm hit. I can't, and at this, I think I'm 18 at the time, 19. I can't afford it, and my mom surely ain't going to get another deal for me, right?
Right.
Because now I got this loan that I got to pay for this bike that I don't have, right? And so anyway, I don't remember, I didn't just jump off the deep end that day or that night, but
slowly progress.
It started progressing. I started not caring again, you know what I mean? And I started getting back into drinking and, and all that. And then it went back down the deep end again. And then it led into all the other things back into, but you know what? I was so hooked on meth at that time that when I quit meth, I didn't do meth again until this last.
You were in your 30s.
30s, yeah.
Yeah.
I was so afraid of it. I was so afraid of it because I was so addicted. I remember the level of the addiction. I remember the addiction was so bad that I didn't want to be addicted anymore, and I couldn't get out of it.
Right.
And I didn't want to do it anymore, and I just couldn't.
So you go to jail. After your bike gets sold, or your bike gets stolen, you kind of get back into old patterns. Mm-hmm. You get caught in kind of a trick bag. You were kind of playing around with some shit, and you end up going to federal jail for 4 years. Mm-hmm. When you come out of jail, what was your first back to getting employed? You went to
Barron Volkswagen, started selling cars.
Is that where drug use started again for you, or
I stayed clean for a long time. In fact, because I was in the halfway house, you come back in, you got to do a UA and a piss test every night you come in. So I stayed clean anyway, and I was good for a while. I would drink a little bit here and there. We would, because we had the timing of the alcohol down where you would leave the halfway house early in the morning, and I would go, straight to the liquor store, go drink a 40 ounce.
Yeah.
And just get, obviously I hadn't really drank much for the last 4 years, so a 40 ounce was, or I didn't even get a 40 ounce. I'd drink like a big can of that camo. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, oh yeah, that shit'll, yeah.
I'd drink a big
I remember that.
22, 24 ounce can or 30 ounce can of camo.
Yeah.
I was shit faced for like 4 or 5 hours, and then it would wear off in time. By the time I had to go back to the halfway house at 5 or 6 that night, I could blow a breathalyzer with no problem. So I did that for a while. Yeah. And then, it just drinking. I just drank for a long time. And then
you met your wife.
Nope.
No?
I didn't meet her till
well, here, me and you had a stint in our 20s. Mm-hmm. We were out every night.
Well, it was 20, because 26 is how old I was when I got out.
Okay. So there you go. So probably from about 26 to 30 when I started dating Michelle.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, I did. That is so 07. So I got out in 04.
Yeah.
And we got married in 07. 7/3/05 was my first date. July 3rd of 05 was my first date with Dominique.
Okay.
Yeah. That didn't slow me down though. I was partying still.
Now, Dominique's a very sharp woman. How did you hide it?
Didn't have to.
Dominique's such a good-hearted Dominique. I could see where Dominique would be completely clueless to it, though.
No. So she knew about because we started getting back into just the it was the weekend warrior stuff because I was working in the car business. I was doing well. I had gotten a finance job. I was a finance manager. I was starting to make some decent money, and I'd spend time with her in the evenings and everything and go to work. And, if I got loose one week, I would go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe. But usually it was Friday night, not very late because I had to work on Saturdays. And then Saturday night, I'd get
Balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall, right?
Yeah.
But it was a weekend war. I contained it pretty good. I wasn't drunk and high and doing all the stuff during work hours, for a long time. And then I slowly that started fading. Then it got to the point where I really started selling dope heavy. Wait, no. That was before. So this is when I got into partying real heavy.
Yeah.
I got into partying and I wanted out of the car business. And so that's when I got into the heavy equipment, machinery, and stuff like that. And kind of was working almost for myself. I didn't not really for myself, but I was more of an independent contractor type.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't have any real business hours, which was not good for me.
No.
That's when it was golfing, it was cocaine, alcohol all day long. Come home and I got to be honest with you, to sit here and think about it, it's embarrassing because I can't. The timeline through those times is a blur.
When you stay up 24 hours,
sometimes more.
Shit mends together.
I remember. Was baby Tony already alive or born
when
you really went off the deep end?
That was the end of it. Yeah, he was born. Yeah. And I remember
going down to Northtown.
She was in the hospital, just had a C-section. And I'm sneaking out to the dually out in the parking garage, driving my remote control truck around in the snow. Cause you got January 29th is his birthday. I'm driving my remote control truck around in the snow out in the parking garage, higher than a witch doctor.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, so baby Tony maybe was a year when shit really hit the fan.
January 16th, 2016. Yeah, he was born January 29th, 2015. So it was almost exactly a year. That's when I had that moment in the hotel.
So
there was also that time where I had to come get you down in Northtown.
Yeah, he wasn't a year yet.
That was
that year, 2015. That was the year he was born.
I remember you were like at some warehouse.
Yeah, that was the warehouse that I had, and I was selling all that overstock freight stuff. Oh yeah, gosh dang! I remember this whole time. Remember, I moved to Oklahoma for like 4 months.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That was a
with that fucking
deal.
Yeah, but so I remember because at the time I was shit. I may have been.
Well, 2015. How old were you?
So 2015.
Born in 78, right?
Yeah. How come I can't do the math? I was 28.
27.
Mm-hmm. I was 27. So, yeah. So, no, because I was with Michelle when this happened, Tony, Mike. And Gianna was born.
See what I mean? It's all a blur.
Yeah.
You weren't 28 in 2015.
27.
You weren't 27 in 2015.
Wasn't? You want to go over the math again? Let me know when I'm right?
Yeah, I will, because I was born in 80 and 07's when I got in trouble when I was 27 years old.
Andrew, in 2018, I'd have been 30. So in 2015, what would I have been? What's 3 minus fucking, come on.
2015.
27 years old.
8.
Are you going to shake your head? Yeah. If at 2018, what would I have been? If I was born in 78, I'd have been 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is true.
No, wait. No.
That math ain't math.
No, he's right.
40.
I'd have been 40. I'm the jerk off.
Yes, I know.
was 37.
I know.
So
now the whole world knows.
Yeah, I was 37, so that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was with Michelle, and like I said, Gianna was already born, and the twins were already
Because
born.
I got my shit cleaned up when I was 27 years old.
Because I remember saying, I told my wife, I said, I'm leaving. I'm going down there. I'm going to go try to find Tony Mike. And she goes, be careful. I think he's got a fucking gun. I said, he ain't shooting me.
which he's not supposed to have guns.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't.
So-
Listen, hey, that's another thing. You know, just talking about how the hand of God has just been all over my life and with me every step of the way.
Yeah.
Guys, there was a point at the end there when I would drive around in my lift. Do you remember that lifted dually I had? Yeah. That inconspicuous dually.
Yeah, nobody noticed.
Very
the roadway.
inconspicuous.
Yeah,
It's
nobody
it-
noticed.
Lifted with 37-inch tires on it with blazing neon lights blasting from the underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
loud sound system.
With loud sound system, and I got no less than probably 6 or 7 ounces of meth and 2 pistols in my backpack.
Right.
I was
You'd have went to jail for 20 years.
20 lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. 20. Each gun's 5 years.
And then each bullet's a year.
Each gun is 5 years, and each bullet is a stacking consecutive 10.
Oh, is that how that goes?
Yeah, he's
Consecutive 10.
he ain't gonna see the light of day.
I'm done. I'm one traffic stop away from being lost in the federal system forever. With 3 kids. I mean, that, so just to think back on life, how big small decisions are in moments, man, it's
But
insane.
At the time, you're not thinking
No,
that
I'm
that
not thinking-
you're not thinking about I can get hemmed up, I can get caught. You know the consequences, but you're not thinking, and you've experienced some of the consequences.
Yeah.
So when does God really intercede and kind of like shake you to your core?
Yeah. So I was, back to never selling dope, right?
Yeah.
I would give it away. So it's different.
Yeah.
Not really. It's distribution, but
Yeah.
I had my.
In your head, we justify drug addicts justify their behavior.
So I had a lot of dope, and everyone knew that if you hung out with me, I had a lot of dope, and you were going to get high for however long you wanted to stay with me and get high, right? And so every night I had and by the way, back up a minute. Dominique kicked me out of the house. She finally found out,
Right?
And she knew the depth of everything. She knew that I wasn't sleeping underneath the car because I was overworked and just really tired. She figured out that I was sleeping under the car because I had been up for 4 days prior to that.
Right.
So she was done. Get out. I love you. I love myself more. I got to figure out how to take care of these kids without you. So for me, initially, it was a ton of weight lifted off me because I was hiding this double life. I was living this double life, and that's stressful, right? Double life's very stressful.
Yeah.
So now it had kind of all come out. Like I'm completely busted. Now I can just start living however I want to live. And she had told me, you can come back to the house. I'm not going to touch any of the bank accounts. We'll figure all that stuff out later. Just, you can come back to the house whenever you want. Come see the kids. I'm not going to keep you from the kids. We're not going to do any of that. So for me, my first initial reaction was weight lifted off me, a big sign of relief. I felt better about everything. Now I could have my cake and eat it too. Now I can go run amok, and I don't have to hide. I don't have to worry. I don't have to check my phone, wondering if, because I had the tracking services on her phone to see if she was coming close to me.
Yeah.
We're in the hotel rooms I was at, whatever. Right. So now I'm free. Right. So I would go out, I'd go down to the warehouse, I'd do whatever. I would go get a hotel. I had points on Marriott, I could stay at a Marriott for 10 years with all the points that I had from traveling for work, right? And so I would go down to the Marriott, the Briarcliff Marriott downtown, or Briarcliff that overlooks downtown.
Yeah.
And I got friendly with the girl at the counter, so she loved me. She's seen me every day, right? I was living there pretty much. And she would upgrade me to the big suite upstairs at no extra cost, right? So every night I'm having a bunch of people over, we're partying, right? Well, this one night, no one shows up. And when I'm talking about, I had no less than 7-8 people every night that would come hang out with me and party. Right. And not one person showed up, no one this night, right? And I got this big suite to myself, and I remember the sun starts kind of coming up a little bit.
Miserable.
Yeah, it's at that time I really didn't care though, right? So I'm sitting in the chair and I get this notification on my phone. So the little Nest cameras, I've got them hidden in the house, all over the house. I got them up in the recessed lighting brackets, the trays around the house in every room. And, so I get a notification on my phone. It's got to be 5:30 in the morning. And it's the sound coming from my bedroom. And I thought, and then my heart went into my stomach, because typically I would come home early in the morning and see the kids when they got up, right? So they didn't really know the difference, right? They were young at the time, remember?
Right.
Yeah.
Daniela was 6 years old, right? And so I'm thinking, she knows I'm going to be there early, and it's 5:30. She's got somebody there. I think she's got somebody in the house. And she's probably, hey, wait, you got to leave before he comes, right? So I'm listening to the microphone. I'm trying to see who's in the house, right? And it's her crying. She's kind of like sobbing a little, weeping, And then I hear Aniela go, "Mommy, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Maybe I can make you feel better." She said, "I just miss Daddy, baby." And Aniela goes, "I miss Daddy too, Mommy." And I lost it. I absolutely lost it. I was sitting in a chair, arms like this, and I'm overlooking the downtown airport, and I had a ball cap on, and I just remember crying, and I pulled my ball cap over my eyes and said, "God, what have I done to my family?" And I'm just sobbing uncontrollably. I can't even control myself. I'm crying, and I'm talking out. So what have I done to my family? And then I said, what? How do I? I don't even know where to start. How do I get it back? Like, where do I even start? Because I didn't even, I wanted to try. I didn't even know where to start. Done so much damage at this point. Like, where do you even start repairing this deal, right? And I just heard, "Go home." Audible voice of God, and that was the only time up until then in my life, and it's the only time since then I've heard the audible.
Have you sought the voice out though?
I have, and I'll tell you a story that I've just recently again had a strong conviction of an internal voice, and it was the closest thing I've come since then. But I'll tell you that story too. But so I got up and freaked out because I thought somebody was in the room.
I hear shit.
Yeah. So I go check the suite. It's two big 2-bedroom suite with common area. I'm looking in the closets under the bed. I'm yelling my friends' names. I thought somebody snuck in on me, so the first thing I go, "Oh God, I'm hearing voices now."
Right.
This ain't good. This ain't good. I'm jacked up. 9 ways to Sunday, and then, so what do you do then? You just start smoking more, and I'm screwed at this point, right? So I just keep getting high, and then about 10:30 rolls around. Mind you, this is about 5:36 in the morning. About 10:30 rolls around. I'm still there. I don't even know what I'm doing between that time, but I get a call on my phone, and it's Dominique, and my first thoughts, she I don't know what to think. Like, does she know? Does she not know And she said, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I don't know. Probably nothing. Why? She goes, can you come by and sit with the kids? Diama, which is a close friend of ours, is Diama. We're going to go try out a church. Yeah, D. Yeah, she says, we're going to go try out a church. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that. And it was the night the Chiefs were playing the Patriots in the playoff game. And so they go to try this new little church in Liberty, and they get there. She don't care about football. They're playing the game. So she turns around, comes back home. And so we're sitting there talking. We put the kids in bed and we're talking. And you know this, you guys know Dominique. She's been, since the moment she kicked me out, and ever since then has always been nothing but sweet to me. And
she's
kind.
a saint.
She's always been. She showed you grace the entire
time, right? Yeah. Loved me through it all, right? Mm-hmm. But with a firmness, right? So she this is where her and I differ on the story, because I was obviously high and she wasn't. So she says it went down a little bit differently. But the way I remember it is, we're talking for a while, and then it got to the point she's like, all right, well, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And that was pretty much my cue to get out, right?
Yeah.
You got to leave now. So she don't know that this epiphanic moment happened that morning. And I said, she goes, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. I said, all right, I'm gonna go to bed too. And she looked at me, she's like, What do you mean? I said, yeah, we're still married. This is, it's my house and you're my wife. And she looks at me, like, what are you doing? Right. And I go, so look, I got a problem and something happened today and I'm done. I'm ready to walk away. I'm ready to be done and get my life back, And she says, I said, I'm ready to come home. She said, if you come home tonight and then you're going to try this again tomorrow and you're going to do this back, I'm not doing it. She goes, you got one shot. So I just need one chance. That's it. Never look back. Never touched another.
And didn't go to rehab.
Didn't go to rehab. Never touched another drug in my life. 2 weeks later, we went on a party bus with that friend that was supposed to be in the hotel that night that I thought it was his voice that I heard. And we were doing shots she was with me. We went for his birthday. We were doing shots of Patron on the back of the bus. I remember getting that first buzz and I wanted to get high so bad.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know what? I said, let's go home. Let's get a cab and go home. She said, you okay? I said, not really. I want to get high really bad right now. I said, I'm done. I'm not going to drink anymore. I can't do it.
And that's miserable. I remember going through that phase where alcohol was the X factor.
Yeah.
And
it lowers your inhibitions and
lowers your inhibitions.
Well, but really from a mental, from a physiological standpoint, when you mix cocaine and alcohol, your liver forms a third drug that is way more addictive than either one of them by themselves. Really? It's called cocaine. So now when your brain gets a hold of that cocaine, whenever you use one without the other, your brain's telling you got peanut butter but no jelly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Except for 100 times more intense.
Yeah.
So and so I actually I didn't ever go to rehab, but I did go to a therapist, and I told him, I said, I don't know what my deal is. I said, but I have one or two drinks. I'll go to the ends of the earth for cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, that's because you're not addicted to alcohol or cocaine. You're addicted to cocaine.
That's wild.
Is what he told me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I remember one time I can't believe I didn't pick up on something, but we, for whatever reason, I was doing cocaine without alcohol. And I never really did that. Unconscious. Something I never really did. And I remember stopping by Quick Trip, grabbing a 6-pack and drinking 3 of them in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get the beer down me fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember doing that. And then, so I remember when I went to this therapist and I told him kind of, the story, he's like, you're addicted to cocaine. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And and honestly, here, when Gianna was born, that was my epiphanic moment. Like literally in the delivery room, I saw her and all my desire to do anything went away.
Yeah.
It just went away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I just had no desire. And now my wife says I'm boring. I say, remember how fun I used to be?
Yeah. So fun.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, and even the coaches that I coach with, they'll tell you, they're like, after a game, they'll all go and drink. Now, I'm not saying I won't drink. I will drink.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I mean, and I honestly, it's crazy. I can get I could drink tequila or whatever and get a real strong buzz, have no desire to do cocaine.
That's good. Yeah.
No desire to do cocaine. And I don't know. I don't have the desire to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But that it all happened with Gianna when Gianna was born. It's all I wanted to do was be at home with Michelle and the kids. That's it. That's all I wanted.
So one of the things that was on, so obviously the last couple of days when we talked about doing this, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was I learned. So go back to what I said when I was 17, and I was so addicted to that drug, to meth, and I didn't want to be, and I just couldn't not be. I just didn't know how to. I didn't know how to not do it. And I had never, ever been taught the power of choice. I'd never been taught just how strong you can make a decision and you can do it. It's just a choice. Overthinking it and the depths of the addiction, just all that goes with it. And I learned that night, that when I went home that day with my wife, and I consciously made a choice. I was still high. I was very high.
Yeah.
I'd been up at that point for probably 5 or 6 days. So I was extremely high. You know, I was well saturated with drugs. So I didn't make a conscious decision to quit because I was clear-headed at the time.
Right.
In fact, I was the opposite. I was probably in my height of my addiction. I probably couldn't have been any more addicted to anything than I was right there at that moment. But the power of the choice that I made to be done that day and just say no and move forward and to stick with that choice and continue daily. And, you know, Frank, to be honest with you, I probably could drink now. I think I have such a strong enough mind and I've trained myself in a mindset, but for me, I've made it more into, because it's a choice, right?
Yeah.
I've made it that game of a choice where I choose not to. I continue to choose not to, because I have a choice that I can, or I can choose not to, and I just continue to choose not to.
Well, and I think like here, if you could listen to this podcast and you could think, man, these three are three knuckleheads, and you know, we've told stories and we've laughed at it, and at this point in time in our lives, it is kind of funny. You know, and if you don't laugh, sometimes you'll cry,
Yeah.
you know, but I think I certainly, if anyone's listening,
Now,
we
How many
actually,
subscribers do you have now?
here, you know what, like 200 and some change. Well, here, that's just on YouTube.
We know they're
like some of these, our videos, you know, they've had 200 downloads, like 200 people sat down and watched it,
That's
you know,
And some of our shorts have had
5, 6, 7,000 views.
Yeah.
You know? So clearly we do have some, and I've had so many people, I've had people come up to me that I don't know who the hell they are, be like, hey man, I love your podcast. I'm like, fucking A, keep listening.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want people to think that we're
Glorifying.
We're not,
You're not,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, the real kicker, or the real subject here, is the transformation that has been made in all three of us.
Yeah.
And the transformation has one common denominator, and that's Jesus. You know, and how he comes in and he changes everything. And many of us, not many of us, but all three of us kicked the demons out of our house, but did invite Jesus in, and we ended up fucked again.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
I mean, and if we're honest to about everything, for me at least, to understand how dark and the devil is, and the evil inside of addiction is, it only made me understand how light and how Jesus and how the Holy Spirit intercedes.
well, and there's so many times I could see people, you know, making a comment, tongue in cheek, rolling their eyes, saying, "Well, that guy found God." Well, and you don't realize it, but you ain't going to beat addiction without finding God.
No,
You're just not.
You're not.
You're going to lose that battle.
I'll tell you a true story about that. So this is God's sense of humor, right? So I didn't go through rehab, but I did go through therapy. Dominique and I did like a couples counseling, and I was going through simultaneously addiction counseling with the same doctor, you know, so helping me, helping her, helping us, right? So that was,
you may not have been on inpatient therapy.
No. It was 7 a.m. every Thursday morning for about a year straight.
Yeah. So
And we would go down to the hospital at KU. She would get somebody to take, because she's 7A to 7P, so it'd be on her shift, and if that day the night nurse would stay an extra hour for her so that we could go. She would walk downstairs. We'd do this therapy together. But God's sense of humor, here I am seeking him, seeking Christ, and he puts me with this foul-mouthed Jew in New York. And this guy, you know, I mean, he listen, I couldn't describe it any better. A foul-mouthed Jew from New York, and you can hear him already, right?
Yeah.
And he's a bit older, but this guy, I mean, he called me out on all my stuff and he didn't let me breathe with any BS, right? He was all over me. And it's exactly what I needed, that high level of accountability.
Yeah.
But he's teasing me about Jesus, something, because I had said something, I'm going to church, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he rolls his eyes and he goes, hey, listen, he goes, you do realize that I'm I'm Jewish. So when you talk about Jesus, I'm only teasing you. He says, I think your relationship with God is wonderful. And whoever it is that you're seeking, it's a proven fact clinically that your chances of success of beating addiction with a spiritual grounding is higher than someone who doesn't.
Well, here, look at the 12 steps. What's the first step?
Yeah, it's all about
It's
Submitting to a higher
recognizing
power.
there's a higher power than yourself.
the higher power. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
so-
that's so
And that's so that was comforting, and I understood, that he's Jewish and my God's Jesus, and so it was a natural comedy, right? But
Right.
But he applauded me for that, and hearing that was more reassurance to really continue to do it, right? Even if I didn't fully believe in what I was believing in, it was still the right path.
Well, and I think God puts people in your life that are going to speak into your life regardless. You might not have received the same message from somebody who's really polished and
You needed a foul-mouthed
You
Jew.
needed a foul mouth.
We tried it. Dominique and I went to this other counselor. I was like, that dude's lame.
Yeah, he doesn't know what.
I controlled the whole. I didn't let the guy have a word in edgewise. I was still high when we went to the first counselor, and I didn't let this guy talk. I mean, I stole the whole show. I think I counseled this guy. I think this guy might have started meth after me. It was terrible. The other guy's terrible.
Well,
But he was a nice guy. He just was too nice for me. I needed some.
You needed somebody who's going to get in your face, therapy.
So I go
point
see.
their finger at you, maybe grab your
Well,
face
here,
mask.
so the very first time I was still high, I hadn't had this epiphany. I'm trying to just keep things together with my wife, right? So this is initially, she had found out, whatever. I told her I would quit. So I go to see him, right? And I had my first session with him. I blasted a bowl in the parking lot before I went in and talked to him. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing it no more. And
Right.
he's like, all right, yeah. And when's your sobriety day? I was like, I don't even remember. It doesn't matter to me. I don't even get it. It's so beneath me. I don't even care. I don't need a sobriety day. I'm not one of those guys.
Right.
So I talked to this guy. So then all this happened, this epiphanic moment and all that. So the next time that I went to him, I was clean. And I told him, I said, hey, I got to tell you, that last session we had, I was high. He goes, I know. He says, listen to me. Just so you know, and we're clear, all those things that you listed that you want out of life, the success and all your goals in life, you're not going to get any of them accomplished if you're high.
Right.
Okay. But what I will tell you is when you come to me, I make the same amount of money whether you're high or sober. So I really don't care. I can either entertain you for an hour while you talk,
Right.
or I can help you get better. It doesn't matter. It pays me the same.
Right.
So I was
Hey.
and that's
Appreciate his honesty.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
punch in the mouth. Like it's up to you.
Right.
What you want out of this is completely up to you.
Sure.
I don't care.
Right. No,
If you
I
keep
I
coming,
get it.
I'll keep making the money.
Yeah. So
now you're heavily involved in your church.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the 30,000 square foot view of what you're doing there.
So we got involved in the youth ministry called Switch at Life Church.
Okay.
That is middle school through high school students.
Okay.
I didn't accidentally end up there, but I consciously accidentally ended up there. I had in my mind that I wanted to do prison ministry. I wanted to go in and give some guys some hope.
You should listen to our podcast with Father Mark Femuliner. He did prison ministry. It changed his life.
Yeah.
yeah.
You should listen to it.
Yeah, I will. I wanted to go do that, and for some reason, it just never would line up. I mean, it's not really for some reason. It's for purpose.
Well, it's sometimes the way we see that the role that we're going to fill. God says, okay, maybe one day, but right now, here's where I need you.
Yeah. And so I got hooked up with the youth pastor at Life Church, and he took an interest in my influence. Right, he could see that I had an outward charm, which was influential to get. And I'm big, and I'm cool looking. I'm tatted up. I could. He was a.
You're the exact opposite of what you think that a minister or somebody would look like.
Right. And he saw saw the draw that I could have with younger guys, right? The young men. And so, and when I got into it, good Lord, man, the fulfillment I got out of sitting with high school boys and talking just in a small group, just talking about stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then I remember one night, Andrew Conrad, if you're listening, I miss you, buddy. Andrew, afterwards, he says, hey, can you pray for me? I was like, yeah, man, sure. And, he just kind of sat there and put his head down. I go, oh, you mean right now?
He's ready.
Like, yeah, man, I need you to pray for me. And this is what I'm going through. I said, yeah, man. And I laid hands on him and prayed. And dude, that's the first time I'd ever really prayed for somebody like on call like that, and the instant connection I had with him and just prayer life in general. And I was like, wow, this is cool.
The first time you do that, you lay hands on somebody, you pray for somebody, you feel God literally come through you because you don't know what to say.
You don't know what to say.
And you're like,
yet you say it perfectly.
You say it perfectly.
When you're the gift of, it's definitely a gift,
well,
right,
and
right,
like, here at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit, it works that way too. Cause you can take a word and you can dissect it 100 million different ways, and everyone thinks it's directed directly at them, right?
Oh yeah.
And because there's been so many times where I've been in church like, oh, he's reading my mind.
Yeah.
How does he know that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then, the more and more you get in there, the more spiritually discerned you get. You just realize that one word can be dissected up, God only knows how many different ways to reach however many people it needs to reach. Yeah. And that's just the power of the gift of the Holy Spirit, And while I loathe some of the decisions that I made, and if I don't think I would take any of it back.
I get that question all the time.
I don't think I would.
I don't do it all over again. So selfishly, look where I'm at now. No, I wouldn't take. The only thing I would take back is any of the external hurt that I caused.
I would take that back for sure.
If I could go back and do it all again, I would do it all, and probably maybe a little bit more on some nights.
Right.
Yeah.
I would cut out the hurt.
Yeah.
Because that people experience.
It's tough to ever be in a situation where you truly trust God until your back's against the wall and he pulls you out of your circumstance, or not necessarily changes your circumstance, but changes your perspective. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, and you're in that dark place and all of a sudden there's light, and then all of a sudden you can lift your hands and you could drop to your knees and praise and worship him, and you don't do it and you're not ashamed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So and that's why I don't regret a lot of the shit that I put myself through, a lot of, and I say, cause it's self-inflicted wounds, you know what I mean? Despite here, some of it's not, but I chose how to respond to the shit that was happening to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's no one else's fault but mine. So, but anyway, so, tell me what I want to know is the plans for the futures. And I'm not talking about, I know you're going to continue to grow the business, the medical spa business, and continue to excel in, the car space, 'cause that's just what you do, but what's the future hold for you as far as ministry?
I don't know. In this last school year, the second half of it, I didn't take a step back from the ministry, but I poured into my son, and I stayed with him because they were doing like a babysitter deal for us leaders that have young kids that can't be in switch. So they did away with that. So now we had baby Tony, because he's not, the girls are old enough to be in switch and he's not. So Wednesday nights he was kind of left home, and we had a nanny, and he's wrestling, and so I started coaching wrestling, and I'm going to tell you, this last 7-8 months I've spent a lot of time with him, and he and I have bonded on just a whole nother level.
So I've grappled with that as a coach, because you spend so much time with these kids, you know, and you spend so much time, you know, concerned about them, who's got this going on, who's got this type of home life, this, that, the other, and then you got shit going on in your own house that you ain't paying no damn attention to.
Yeah.
You know,
so so for the ministry side, I didn't do a lot of, and luckily I got myself into a position with the ministry where I wasn't actual group leader anymore. I was kind of the leader of the leaders, and I would help, you know, minister to them and help make sure the night's flowing good with groups. Because what we do at the end of the night, we watch a message and we break out into small groups, into our switch groups is what they call them. And I kind of oversaw the switch groups to make sure that, you know, there was enough leaders for group, and if there was new students, make sure they got with the right groups and, you know, stuff like that. So I wasn't as intimately involved with the discussions in each group. I would pop in, sit for a few minutes, listen to the conversation, make sure it's flowing good, things like that, you know. So I wasn't as relied upon as a leader to be there for the students, and that's important, right? The consistency of the leader in those groups, being there week in and week out. And I didn't really have that.
So you got to be all in or all out.
Yeah, if you're going to do that part of it, right? But the switch ministry is so big. There's people that are on ops that can just show up early in the night, help set the night up, and then they can leave and go home or hang out and maybe help tear everything down. They're a very important role in the ministry, but the consistency of whether they can show up, be there or not, the kids don't see it because it's behind the scenes, right? And so we had those kind of roles too. My role kind of started being to where my consistency of being there present for the kids wasn't as important. It's important, don't get me wrong, but it's not as important. Being a switch leader of the group, where you have a certain set of kids that come to your group every Wednesday night, it's important for you to be there.
And you got to have continuity.
And you got to, yeah. And so I did that for the first 3 years, and this last year I was in that different role, so I was able to spend more time with baby Tony, which, you know, is going to pay dividends. I think I'm excited for him to grow up as a young man. He's going to be something special.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying he's my son. I think he is. We're doing a lot of things with him, intentional things with his growth.
Yeah.
You know, I got him in a mental coaching with a company that does mental coaching for young athletes, and so he does that weekly call every. You know, just the little things like that. But
that's a big thing.
It's huge, right? Yeah. The mental part of athletics is huge.
Oh, it's huge.
And there's nothing we do to really train our kids. We just expect them to learn on the fly.
Right. No, it's a big thing. Yeah, and one thing you'll notice that's consistent with high level performers, you know, they don't get too excited when things go good, and they don't get too down when things go bad. They're even keeled. And that's, you know, sometimes people just have that gift, and it's part of their talent. Right.
Have you ever read the book Relentless by Tim Grover? Do you know who Tim Grover is? He was the trainer that trained Kobe and Michael Jordan and all those guys. Great book. And that's what he talks about. It's that relentless, it doesn't matter. If the highs aren't very high for very long, the lows ain't very low for very long. Grit. It's just grit and hustle.
Just grind.
You're grinding.
And at the end of the day, like any championship or victory is fleeting.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl last year, I wouldn't be able to tell you who won.
You think Patrick Mahomes is celebrating last year's Super Bowl?
No, already back.
He's already forgot about it.
He's forgot about it.
He's too busy worrying about this year's Super Bowl.
On to the next.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
so I think that, you know, I was thinking too, if what I like to be in, because I like coaching and mentoring, and I'm in a position now with the businesses, with the car dealerships, I get to do a lot of that, a lot of personal development. I'm really into that. I love it. I love get to play in a small part of people's lives. You know, when I take some of these young men that work for me that have nothing, and then, you know, 2 or 3 years later, they're buying their first house, they're getting married, they're having a kid,
right?
You know, you just, and you know that you've had conversations with them, you know, backroom conversations with them about things that I've done growing up, things I did right, things I did wrong, you know, more things I did wrong. I've coached more from telling people what not to do than telling them what to do.
Well, listen, you can find out who you're not instead of trying to find out who you are, and you'll end up where you need to be.
Right.
You know, so
yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. So, you know, watching young men develop, and even some young ladies too, that I get to play a part in their life. It's nothing more fulfilling than that, you know? So I'm going to continue. So my ministry, my mission behind my mission is in the automobile industry. I keep pressing forward. I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm a devout Christian, and people know that, right?
Plant seeds.
I do. I just plant seeds, and if the conversation comes up, and I use in my sales meetings and my leadership meetings, and I use biblical guided principles in my secular business. And I'll tell you, I've learned a lot of this from Craig Rochelle, the pastor of Life Church.
He's brilliant.
You know, he does that leadership podcast, and he does a secular leadership podcast with all fundamental biblical principles, right?
Right.
And I've taken a page out of that book. I love it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, there's so much to that, and you just use those principles, and you unconsciously just outcompete.
Mm-hmm.
You just do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but when you're in it for the right reasons, and you find your true north, and you know which way to turn when the shit hits the fan, and when the storms of life come, you just outcompete. You just do. It just is what it is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, God gets the glory, and that's what he wants.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple. There's a reason why you take a guy like Anthony Simone. I'll tell you right now, that guy's going to end up being regarded as one of the best high school football coaches in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And like a Tony Severino, he's going to be. Mm-hmm. And he'll also, he doesn't abandon his principles no matter what the circumstance. Like, I remember there was a game, and we didn't have control of the game, and it was a big game, and our safety got a personal foul, and he yanked him out of the game, and I'm in the headset talking to him, and I said, "Come on, Ant, don't yank him right now." And he goes, "You think I care about a touchdown?" That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
He goes, "You think I care?" He goes, and he yanked his ass.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to abandon his principles. He's just not going to do it.
I love it.
And his focus is 100% biblical. It's 100% spiritually based. It's 100% has Jesus first. And when it doesn't, there's always somebody to check him or to check me or to check somebody else. You know what I mean? To say, hey, this isn't about wins and losses, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you right now, everything, it's going to fall into place for him, because his number one focus, and what he really, his big thing is, hey, I want to teach these young men to have a relationship with Jesus and get them to heaven. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's going to win games because of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's going to win games because of it. So he will be regarded as one of the best coaches. I truly believe it.
No, I believe it too, and I think that, to your point,
I still think he's a jack off. I hope he's listening to this.
I think to your point, it's like the goal of winning, success, and all that. We could have, you could be seeking that and using the wrong avenue, just like when you
doing
were
the right things for the wrong reason.
And just like when we were all in the heart of our addiction, we may have sought out success, but gone about it the wrong way with the wrong principles in mind. Yeah. And there was no way you were ever going to get the amount of success that you wanted to with that avenue.
No, so, and it's, so when you say that, I think back, and I often tell people, non-Christian, they may even be Christian, but I'm a businessman, and I run a couple of really successful car dealerships, and the med spas are doing well, and I appear to be doing well financially. I appear to be worldly doing well, right? And so I attract a lot of worldly attention from young guys that, hey man, what how are you successful? What do you do for this stuff? What do you do for that stuff? When did you really start becoming successful? And and I know what they want to hear. They want to hear about what book to read, and they want to hear about what's my like my physique, like what's your meal plan? What's your supplements? What do you, but really, honestly, the catalyst and all of that, none of it started until I said yes to follow Jesus. When I'm going to tell you, if I look back and if you look at a graph of my life in terms,
you said
of like,
yes, and it went.
yes. I think I've had some relative success with a few setbacks. But if you look from here, at a young age to here, I'm up and to the right. I'm for sure up and to the right.
Yeah.
But but the bar was like this. And then when I said yes in this last 8.5 years is when it went
Parabolic.
Yeah.
parabolic. That's exactly right.
You're trading sideways, chopping up and down, up and down, up and down until you go parabolic. You say yes, you go parabolic.
Well,
That's the best way I could put it. That's exactly right.
and you know what? It's there's so many families that you see that maintained obedience, and it's like, now look at him. Well, there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to give you the things that you want until you're ready for them.
Yeah, too.
Because otherwise, what'll happen
piss
is,
it all away.
well, not only that, but money will have you and you won't have money.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah, it's totally different. You can't serve two masters.
No, money will have you and you won't have money.
In a worldly sense of that, we kind of so we're putting together our estate planning and our will and everything, and
That's miserable. I had to do that. It's awful.
listen, my poor kids, they're going to have way better time getting my money if I stay alive. Because if I die, the stipulations that we put on these poor kids to get any kind of money I don't have a lot of it.
My kids can't get distributions until they got degrees. If I die, my kids can't get distributions till they got degrees.
That's part of it. Here's the other part of it.
And then even then, they only get like certain percents. You know what I mean? It's all there's stipulations on all of it.
We got 25% at 30, 25% at 40, and then the other 50 at 50.
Right.
And here's the other piece of it. Now I put some.
You'll give it to them way easier than that if you're alive.
Hey, they have to submit to a drug test. If they fail, they can't try again for another 5 years.
Yeah. I mean,
you're not going to give them the keys to the kingdom.
No.
Unless they're flying right.
yeah. Otherwise, they'll never appreciate it.
We took that page out of Shaq's book. You ever heard his quote?
Give me my cheese if you don't give me 2 degrees.
2 degrees, you don't give my cheese.
Yeah. You can't touch me or my cheese without 2 degrees.
Yeah.
That stuck with me too.
I love it.
That was what was in my head when I was doing my will.
Yeah, that's great.
That was what was in my head.
I love it.
Anyway, I got to cut this off before I end up staying at your house and getting divorced. I've been gone since 4 a.m. But anyway, this is I've really enjoyed having you. You know what I think of you. You know I love you, and I admire you. I admire the transformation you made. I admire your diligence and your commitment, to God and your family. And I think you have a lot to offer young men and women in the space you're in, the car space that you're in, and I think if they follow your guidance, they'll ultimately be successful too. So, what do you got, Drew?
I'm just happy to have you, Tone. I'm glad you got the opportunity to share here, and I'm excited to see the changes that you're going to make in other people. Man, just keep doing what you're doing.
That's great.
Yeah, I want to leave with this. Each day, back to the choices. Each day's a choice. You get up and you can choose to hit snooze. The day starts off with a choice, right? You can hit the snooze button and stay in bed.
I get prepared to hit the snooze button. Yeah. I'm ready to do. I get up early so I can hit the snooze button. I know.
And then everything from then on is a choice. And listen, I'm not going to paint this rosy colored picture that the choices are easy, right? But there is a choice, even when you don't think, you're like, I have no choice. That's a choice to think that there is no choice, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Literally everything is a decision of whether or not you want to do the hard right or the easy no. And it's so cliche, and we say it all the time. The hard right's going to bear so much more fruit and sustainable. And and here's the thing, work-life balance. Listen, I'm going to tell you, screw that. There's no. You can balance. Look at an entire picture. If you want to determine balance out your life. And what I mean by that is, look at your life as a picture. And I know we're not promised tomorrow, and nobody is, but at least to have a plan so that you're not driving yourself crazy or or selling yourself short. So I choose right now, I want to have a very hard, stressful, grinding life right now for the next however many years until I stop. And then I want to have a piece of my life on the other side where I do nothing.
Yeah.
Golf.
Whatever, or nothing. I want to sit in bed and I want to be fat. I want to eat Doritos. I don't want to work out ever again in my life. Right. And I want to be 700 pounds and I want to die fat. You know what I mean? Whatever that looks like, I want to not worry about nothing at a certain point. So right now I worry about everything.
Live like no one else now so you can live like no one else later.
That's it. And so, and however you choose to balance that, if you choose to have that work-life balance now, you got to have a reality of what success looks like. You're not going to have this wild success. If you think you're going to go work a job and work 35 hours a week and work for Google and sit on a beanbag 3 hours a day for your break and make, multi-millions of dollars, it's probably not going to happen.
No, you got to hang
and that's
your nuts.
okay.
Yeah.
Some people don't want it.
And but the point I'm making is if you do want it, you have your effort has to match your desires.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's I encourage people just to decide what you want, decide what it looks like to get it, and either choose to do it, or don't decide something different.
Right.
Because that's where people get miserable, and then that's where the haters come out.
Well, and then it's also desire versus determination. Right. So I could have the desire to have what you have. Right. But what if I don't have the determination to go grind and put the work in?
Mm-hmm.
Desires, you can wipe your ass with it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you desire without determination, you could just go wipe your ass with it.
I'll also say that I think that surrender is a verb. And sometimes when you're trying to steer too much, you need to turn it over and surrender.
For sure.
And you're grinding your desire and you're getting to a place to where it's like you keep hitting the brick wall. Maybe that's time to actively surrender something in order for God to make room for God to work.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Anyway, love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. Appreciate you guys.
Fun.
Thanks, guys.